please just be aware that we are recording from the outset here. I am Chris Rutledge. I'm the Chief Development Officer at Friendship Place, and this is the latest in a series of webinars that we have been conducting, featuring some of our program heads, program leads to talk about the work that we are doing. And it's an opportunity to learn about the successes we've had during this crisis of coronavirus, some of the challenges we faced, what we've overcome. Great to have David Vicente and Richard McKee from our AimHire program here today. I am going to start by turning this over to Jean-Michel to let him start by saying hello and welcome you himself.
Yes, well, good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be online with you today. We're going to talk about the great work that AimHire is doing. Just to recap very quickly on our process at Friendship Place since we started teleworking on March 16th. For some of us, some of you may already know that 4 teams are active and going to work every day. The 2 outreach teams, and then like Tessa and the Brooks. And the rest of the teams are all active in telework, which I think is remarkable. This was week 13 of our teleworking arrangements. And we've really adjusted to it. We're actually looking and planning for the future of place, and not just ahead at the time we will reconvene partially into the offices and then gradually so, but also what's next and looking strategic planning. So this is great. I'm very much inspired by the work every team is doing at Friendship Place. I think it's amazing that we're able to serve participants at this level through a pandemic, and particularly in the case of AimHire, that we're able to place people in jobs. You're going to hear all about it during this pandemic, when actually people really need jobs even more than before, because so many people are losing their jobs every day still. So I want to thank you again for being on the call, and I want to thank all the donors on the call. AimHire is a completely privately funded initiative of Friendship Place. We have crafted the model ourselves. David and Richard are doing an amazing job rethinking this model and adapting it and moving it forward. So I'm thankful for the leadership in the program, and I'll turn this over to David.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Nice to see everyone. It's an honor, a privilege to talk about AimHire this afternoon. I want to make sure everyone can hear me. Is it good?
We can hear you.
I just hear some sound in the background. I'm not sure where it's coming from.
I'm trying to find that myself. I mean, is it, I don't know if there's noise in the background where you are, David. I'm not seeing other lines beep, but I'll mute myself to be absolutely safe. Right now, you are the only one with volume.
Gotcha. There we go. So I've been in AimHire approximately a year and a half, I will say so. Very excited from the beginning to contribute to the workforce. Very impressed with Friendship Place, by the way. I saw all these divisions and the mission and vision. And in a nutshell, AimHire is to help people get jobs, but with the employment first model. Interesting enough, just to tell you a little bit of my background, I was going through homelessness, which me personally, I don't like to call it homelessness. I like to call it transitioning. And without me knowing, I was going through the employment first model. Very interesting. I remember when I interviewed for this position that I told my story, because I always been an employment counselor. I've been in workforce a little over 20 years. And at the time that I was laid off from the government in Virginia, city of Alexandria, I was going through some transitions, but I was doing jobs as a cashier, server, things I would, never imagine. However, as you can imagine, I had to bring some food on the table, right? Me, without knowing, I was going through the employment first model. So when I interview with AimHire, and I have never heard technically the employment first model, and they explain to me, I say, hey, I know exactly what that is. I've been through that. And it's an exciting model because pretty much in a nutshell, what it is that we believe that anyone that comes through the door of AimHire has already some set skills to work. Why this is so important, so vital? Because me going through it, I believe is better $12 an hour than zero an hour. Employment first model is not necessary to get your career job, but to get some money flowing so you can have food, pay the bills, and take care of your family. So that's the exciting part of AimHire that makes it very dynamic. Now, we've been very successful since we've been implementing flow charts, implementing policies and procedures that are very structured to the employment first model. And I cannot continue without saying that we do have, to my belief, that I've been in the workforce over 20 years in different organizations, we do have the best core of volunteers in AimHire. I do not know where would we at if we would not have the core volunteers to AimHire. Pardon me if I forget any names, but starting from Heidi, Chuck, John, Brenda, and we got so many more volunteers working remotely that have worked with us in the past and also in the present, and also to our superb, outstanding Richard. That later on he's going to talk about exactly what he does at AimHire. But right now we're very excited because even though we're working remotely, we're still working. We're rolling, and so far we have 51 placements for the fiscal year. We have a couple more months to go. Our goal minimum is 75, but we have an internal goal between me and Richard of 100. Don't tell anybody that. And those 51 jobs is an average of $16.80 an hour. So those are quality jobs. That's not just, hey, get a job, blah, blah, blah. That entails a lot of planning, also with Richard. But we are working remotely. As you know, Richard has done superb job with hiring fairs, the volunteers keeping in touch with participants, following through. Some of them needed assistance with unemployment. They needed clothes for interview, mock interview. We also do that. Mock interviewing, which we have a Brenda. I mean, she's just outstanding mentor and coach for our participants. But it's very exciting. AimHire in a nutshell, we just help people to get a job, not necessarily their career job. And we try our best to do it in a period of 90 days, which I think is very exciting as well, because when you have someone coming through the door, making no income or just surviving with public assistance, I have received public assistance in the past, and I mean, public assistance is barely surviving. And you have someone and you help them get a job or transition into a job that already pinpointed, the satisfaction to see someone going through that is has no price, definitely. I was very impressed as well, and I'm still very impressed how AimHire, privately funded, we have functioned quite well. However, Sean knows this, JM knows this, and every director I talk to, that our vision is to expand AimHire to different branches so we can help more people. The more staff that we will have, of course, the more people we will help, definitely. Right now, officially, it's just two of us, me and Richard. And of course, I would not leave out the volunteers, definitely, because they are a primary component of AimHire. But we're very excited to the near future to see how AimHire can help more people get jobs. And it is exciting because a sample of so far 51 people with the staff and volunteers we have in place. I'm imagining more employment specialists so we can help more people to get jobs. And, for example, the seniors, the youth that need specialized assistance to get jobs. And that's the exciting thing about Friendship Place. I must say that the executive team have been very supportive of looking into expanding AimHire. And I know it's not going to be easy. I know it's not going to be, yesterday. I'm a very patient man. However, it's exciting. It's exciting to have that support completely. And an AimHire, well, we have the clothing closet that right now, of course, is not functioning, but we do provide someone needs clothes for interviewing, transportation, very important, for interviewing, and we provide transportation at least for the first 2 weeks once they get a job, and we do a follow up to a year, every 3 months, 3 months, 6 months, 9 and 12, and we give them incentives for that retention up to a year, which is very, very important for participants. We give them a $50 Visa card for every 3 months, and if they complete the year and they've been there for that job for a whole year, we give them 100, which it doesn't solve their financial problems, but it's a big help for them as well. And I'm glad that we have that in place as well. I'm gonna leave you with me personally. I have worked with this gentleman, and I consider him more than gentleman a friend. He's been so supportive since I've been there. I've been a job developer myself in my career. It's been a blessing to be a job developer. I've been an employment specialist, and I have never seen a job developer better than him. Um, Better than me, actually, and that's good. That is very good. He has some qualities that I cherish, and that I am very grateful that Friendship Place has it. And I would like Richard McKee to talk about the work that he does also at AimHire.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Thanks for the kind words. Thank you all for joining us today. We know that you have many choices for your WebEx presentations in the world today. There are many Zoom calls you could be on, but you're here with us, and where you could be anywhere in the world within the privacy of your own home, right? And I want to thank Chris for setting this up and giving us a chance to talk to you all about AimHire, what we're doing. And I want to thank David for his tremendous support. Our flowchart, the way that our program is set up, is really a result of David's vision and the execution of that vision. AimHire, when I joined, we were helping participants. We were still kind of finding our identity. And I think since then, David has helped us really establish our identity, which is to quickly and effectively as possible identify what are a participant's barriers, and to target those barriers specifically for each individual participant. That is what we have really been able to hone in on as a team, as a program, volunteers, and everyone else included. And it's a model that when we created, we had some change creates a lot of anxiety in organizations. It can create anxiety for participants as well. We were a little worried about how participants would respond. Are they going to think that, oh, we're just trying to move them through the program fast or whatever else? And we saw the opposite of anxiety. We saw buy-in from participants. They said, great, yeah, let's figure out what the problems are, and then let's get the show on a road. I need a job and I need a paycheck. And that efficiency, and really dialing in on what are the particular skill gaps, or what are the particular habits that need to be built, or whatever else it may be for each individual participant, honing in on that, focusing on that, and doing whatever we can to overcome those barriers. That's become our trademark, and I'm really proud that that's our trademark. It fits with Employment First, and it fits with our goal, which ultimately is to get these participants income so that they can improve their housing situation as quickly as possible, or for participants looking for more longer term stable employment to maintain housing, to look for those opportunities that are going to allow them to get there too, right? So a little about me. I just recently hit my 2-year anniversary with Friendship Place. I'm so proud to be here, been a part of this team. Jean-Michel, it feels like it was just the other day that I went into your office on Calvert and you interviewed me and gave me the opportunity to join the team. And I remember how excited I was when I left that interview. I still have the card that you gave me when I left that interview. It's a bit crumpled because I think I stuffed it into my suit pocket on the way out because I was so excited. But it was a great moment for me. I'm proud to have been here and proud to have been with AimHire as it's evolved into what it is today. In terms of my day to day, I connect our participants with employers, and I connect AimHire to employers as well. So I'd like to give a shout out here to a few of our employer partners. In this fiscal year, we've established connections with 43 employers, and several of those have been what I call a light touch employer. These are employers who we have said, hey, we've got candidates. I see you have open positions. I've got a couple folks who fit the bill. I'd love to send you their resumes. And they say, sure, let me see them, right? And then I'll send over resumes. We'll have a conversation. We will talk about this, Christine, talking about, I can't believe it's only 2 years. Yeah, me too. So we'll send our participants over to these kind of lighter touch employers. They'll give the participants an interview, move them forward. Sometimes we'll see a hire, sometimes we won't. And those employers are a great resource for us, right? Just knowing that there are opportunities out there. Some participants just need kind of that light touch, just a handshake, an introduction, maybe an extra glance at their resume, and that's all it takes to get them hired, right? It really is just about elevating them and their resume from what may have been lost in the sheer volume of resumes that get submitted to an employer through Indeed. Simply through that light touch, they're able to get a second glance and see an opportunity happen, right? But then we have our employers who have formed a closer connection to us. And these are employers who have either connected with us on a hiring event or employers that have quite a bit of buy-in on our mission. They have a social component to their hiring, and they want to include that as a part of who they're offering opportunities to, right? And sometimes it's a bit of both. Sometimes they have a need for candidates, and their candidates specifically due to the nature of their funding for these positions or due to the nature of their contracts or work, they want an opportunity to invite those candidates in, and we are able to provide them. Right. So I'll shout out to a couple of our employers, some of which may be in our audience today. I sent out an invitation to a few, and we heard that some may be showing up. So if you're there, welcome and thank you for joining us. And most importantly of all, thank you for the opportunities that you provide to our candidates. We really could not do it without you. We talked earlier about our placement numbers and more importantly, the pay rate that we see for participants. That number, that 16 plus an hour, that is getting close. That is, going to help a participant get a living wage in DC, which is no small feat. And that's because of your commitment to equity, to good pay, to taking care of your employees, and it's why we're proud to call you partners. So a few of the folks I invited today, one is Star Enterprises. They do building maintenance, janitorial work, and other contract roles within DC. Keisha, thanks for coming. If you're here, they hired a participant who some of you may be familiar with. That's Harold Cantave. He is a gentleman who attended one of their hiring events, had been interview trained by one of our volunteers, Brenda Small, and he actually spoke at one of our presentations late last year, or was that earlier this year, Chris? I can't remember. But it was recent. Harold's a great speaker. He had a lot of great insight on to what his experience was like as a participant, and he's had a lot of good things to say about Star Enterprises. Harold's just one of a handful who've been hired there. Our hiring event with Star was fantastic, and I look forward to hosting another with you, whether that is in person when they let us all outside, or whether that's virtual. We've done a couple virtual hiring events since we have started quarantine. I'll get into details on that in a minute. We're running an ongoing hiring initiative right now with Capital Bike Share. Thomas Mittner is my contact there with that team. Capital Bike Share is an awesome partner. They have a ton of positions. They are very open-minded in terms of the opportunities they offer to returning citizens. It's a company policy they first implemented in New York and are now implementing here in DC. They have a lot of fantastic opportunities for bike mechanics and battery installers. The battery installer positions are equipping batteries to those motor-assisted bikes. This is Capital Bike Share's answers to those dumb scooters that you see all over DC. The fact that I can get participants an opportunity and help make it harder for those scooters to be everywhere is like truly a joy. No offense to anyone who rides a scooter. I'm just kidding. Next, we have Fort Myer Construction. They hosted a hiring event with us in January. That resulted in quite a few hires. Yesenia You interviewed a lot of people that day. I want to thank you again for your perseverance and the opportunities you provide. And then Balana is a recent partner. They do cleaning on our Brooks building, and they have other positions available in DC. So I was able to connect with Mark Cunningham, and we were able to put some interviews, some participants forward for interviews for different positions that Balana holds throughout the city. So we're excited to watch our partnership blossom with them. And lastly, special shout out to the team with DC SEU. That's Sustainable Energy Utility. They are a city-funded program which helps individuals in the district, DC residents with a GED, to gain employment in sustainable energy positions. They have a 6-month paid training program that helps participants with the skills that can transfer into sustainable energy roles, get the training they need to make the jump to solar energy careers. Now, this is a little different from our usual partners. AimHire, of course, is about employment first, right? We are intentionally in a sphere outside of the normal sort of train and then get placed model, right? And that's really the beauty of DC SEU, is that it tags all the boxes. For one, you get a program that is going to get a participant income. When a participant joins the DC SEU training cohort, it's a full-time position for 6 months, and they are making the wage that they will be making, or at least targeted at the market wage that they'll be making when they're hired by the company that they are mentoring with, that they are doing hands-on mentorship and on-site externship work with. So they're getting a full wage. So for us, that satisfies our placement requirements quite nicely. And when you see that number, that $16 plus per hour number, DCSEU's placements are responsible for quite a bit of why that number is so high. Many of the positions start at 17 an hour, which is excellent. And they are taking a participant's existing skills and setting them up for a career. And all the while, DCSEU's team, Glennis and Alana, who have been an absolute pleasure to work with, are providing essentially hands-on, not full-on case management, but a lot of compassion, a lot of understanding, training in terms of professional development, in terms of workforce etiquette, in terms of time management, and a lot of other soft skills that we teach here at AimHire. So they're providing quite a lot of wraparound in their services and their training for participants on this. And most importantly, I've seen true compassion and understanding and meeting our participants where they are from the DC SEU team. We had a participant who unfortunately experienced some health issues early into their employment. She had to be hospitalized. DCSEU's response to this participant, this was in the first week, which can be, a time where employees are quite vulnerable, in terms of the impression they're setting with their employers. They said, hey, take care of your health. We'll see you here whenever you can return. Your space is safe. And they really met that participant where they were and assisted them throughout. They've met with participants, with case managers. Their commitment to the workforce side is exemplary. I'm so proud that we can work with them. And we are just wrapping up our first ever virtual hiring event with the DCSEU team. This involved getting our participants in front of DCSEU hiring managers over Zoom. This was quite a leap for a lot of participants. There were quite a few technical difficulties along the way. We had one participant who was not able to join Zoom because the bottom of his phone screen was cracked, and on Zoom, that button to join is there on the bottom, right? So there were a lot of hurdles, a lot of things we couldn't predict. It was our first rodeo for online hiring event. But again, with DCSEU's compassion, their understanding, they said, hey, no problem. Let's give it another shot, or we'll do it as a phone interview and follow up with video later. Then we were able to intervene and work with participants and learn a lot about how virtual interview events will need to be conducted. We're certainly going to fold in Zoom interviews, online interviews, and how to use the various different web software programs, how to install them, how to make sure you've got them running, how to do a test run and everything else to make sure that when participants are signing on for online interviews, that that technology is not creating a barrier for them, right? And it certainly has been. The first run through, we saw that it's creating a lot of anxiety. There were a lot of difficulties for participants to join those interviews. And it certainly added a new dimension to our challenges. But I think they're all easily overcome. I think we've already got a pretty good strategy in place for how we can overcome those for participants. Certainly, it will require us to be flexible. Every employer seems to like a different video software program, and that's just how it goes. It's just something we'll have to adjust to. But I was very proud of the results, and we'll see some hires from DCSEU in, is that a week from today? Yes. June 15th is the start of the class. So we will, or when the final offers will be made. So we should be seeing the wrap up here soon. And we'll see the next class of DCSEU candidates on their way through the training program. The current class had their training time extended to a full 9 months to account for COVID, and they will now be graduating rather than in June, in August or September. We'll be seeing them soon. And then they'll go on to be placed with the partner organizations of DCSEU into permanent roles full time. So that's a little bit about what we've been up to, what my role is. And lastly, I'll just talk about volunteers and how instrumental they've been in reaching out to participants. So AimHire team is just David and I, but in reality, it's bigger than that. We have our volunteer team. They've been gung-ho, eager to do work. A lot of them are here at AimHire because AimHire provides our volunteers with the opportunity to do real hands-on work with participants, right? To mentor participants, to guide participants, and to support participants in a really solid and tangible way. I think that is why our volunteers are so committed and dedicated. They form personal connections with participants. They see that they can see progress. They get to know when an application they help someone fill out, or an interview they've done with someone, or advice they've given to someone has led to a hire. I love sharing when we get placements, when we see participants get placed and start off in awesome jobs as a direct result of their efforts. Heidi, Brenda, Chuck, John, and our whole team, Sylvia, who manages our incredible clothing closet, and Deborah, everyone else who helps with mock interviews, has been instrumental into so many of these placements, especially on the mock interview side. Right before we entered quarantine, one of our volunteers, Brenda, helped us put together a very structured system for how we would tackle mock interviews. This is something that we had been working with volunteers on for a long time, in which Deborah Browse had assisted a lot of participants with in the past. And Brenda had an idea of how we could really create a format that would allow us to do mock interviews on a more regular basis as a regular check-in point with participants, rather than kind of assigning them ad hoc as we've done in the past. The formula we came up with, we cranked out in one of the most productive meetings I've ever been in. We went in there with an idea, and we left with a structured plan on how we would do mock interviews. Now we've got a great formula, and the results we've been seeing with the mock interviews have reaffirmed what David and I have seen and quite a bit pop up in our years in workforce development. David more than I have, but we've seen that interviews are one of the most common barriers for participants, and we have seen that. It's something that we can intervene with just one or two mock interview sessions. We can increase a participant's interview skills dramatically. And we've literally seen it happen where a participant will apply to a job, go to an interview, not get the job. They'll come back to AimHire and do a mock interview, and then the next job they've applied for, they've gotten the job. It can be that dramatic. And the simple fact is that participants often have all the skills they need to do the job, but they've never been trained on the formalities and best practices and the kind of professional niceties or norms of conducting a solid interview, right? And it's just not something we're ever really taught, right? It's something that we have to learn, but depending on your industry, you may never have really engaged with those norms, or you may have been working in one role for so long that you simply haven't gotten the chance to brush up on your interview skills. And that's where we're seeing the inability to get the position, right? So we've seen a lot of great improvement there, even doing them remotely over the phone, over Zoom and Skype, etc. And lastly, our volunteers have been instrumental in helping us keep in touch with our participant base. So usually we are kind of a face-to-face contact organization. We are certainly communicate with participants over phone, email. We get word out about hiring events through email, but a lot of our contact with participants is still word of mouth. Participants' access to devices is unreliable. Some participants don't have devices at all. And so having that physical touch point of the AimHire office, it was important in making ourselves available to the participants. We've now had to adjust. So what we've done is create a participant touch point sort of group, and our volunteers are doing weekly or bi-weekly outreach to each one of the participants that we're connected with right now, just to check in. Hey, where are you in your job application process? How are those applications going? Are you receiving the job leads that we're sending out weekly? Do you need assistance with anything related to job searching? Is that unemployment? Is that getting your stimulus check? And then either connecting with the participants, then myself and David, to make sure we're meeting their needs, or connecting the participants to other services if they need housing assistance, if they need rental assistance, if they need to connect to the Welcome Center, or whatever that kind of assistance may be. And we've seen those things change a lot. We've definitely gotten a lot more requests on working with participants to connect them to unemployment resources. We did see a lot of participants get furloughed. They're not necessarily, they don't necessarily need to find a job immediately, but they would like to resume the position they were in when furlough is lifted, but they do need help accessing unemployment. So that's been an interesting interaction with our services and the needs of participants that we've seen. But without them, we would be truly swamped. So I just want to thank the volunteer team again for helping us to manage our 50, 60 plus participants, to stay in touch, to help them understand that we're still here, we're still working, that the way that our contact is going to work will change, but that we're still doing everything we can with them. And especially now, as restrictions are being lifted in Maryland and we're starting to see some of quarantine being loosened, that there are opportunities reappearing, and how we can best support participants to safely, being our keyword, re-enter the workforce, get hours, get paid, get hired, and all doing so all while sort of working through transportation difficulties. As certainly public transit is more complicated now. And then also doing those again safely, making sure that participants have masks, understand the dangers of COVID and how to avoid them. And then also looking for participants, positions for participants that will make sure that the environment they're entering takes into account their health, the health of those they're living with, the rules of the space they live in, and trying to kind of manage all of those factors as we get them employed. So it's been a challenge, but with our support, with the AimHire model in place, I think this is going to be a huge year for an employment first model workforce organization. I think we are going to see that our model can help a lot of people. And I'm really proud to be a part of it, and I'm proud to present it to you. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Richard and David. David, I'm going to unmute you as well. And for the purpose of keeping background noise down, what I'm going to do is keep everyone else muted. And I ask if folks can maybe ask your questions in the chat window. I actually have a couple that people have emailed me early, so I'm going to pose those questions, and either Richard or David, if either of you can answer those. Richard, you touched on the transportation issue and how that is a challenge, obviously, given this time. And what are some of the solutions that our participants are finding to get around transportation?
Sure. So some of it has been just walking participants through a transportation plan, right? So just making sure that there is a backup if the mode of transportation that they have is not viable, right? And so the most common one has been, hey, usually I'm taking a metro to here, and then I hop on a bus, but the buses aren't stopping, right? This is for those unaware, in DC, buses now have a passenger limit on them that is a fraction of what they used to be, right? You can imagine, back before quarantine, buses were crammed to the gills. Now you're looking at, I don't know, 10 passengers per bus or something like that. But of course, we haven't seen an increase in routes or the buses active. So this can leave participants in a bind, right? And so just talking about ways to plan for that. Okay, so if the bus doesn't run, or if you have to wait an extra, extra amount of time, what's a better way to do to do that? How can you plan for those delays? Is there someone you can get a ride from? Is there is there an alternative route you can take that would put you closer and then you walk? But when all other options are exhausted, the go-to we've gone to for here is to get them set up with a rideshare service, right? Again, emphasizing the need to use hand sanitizer before and after you get in the car, wear a mask the entire time, be safe, limit what you touch. If the driver isn't wearing a mask, ask them to put one on, all that good stuff. But it's been the simplest and fastest solution. Obviously, much more expensive. However, we've gotten some funds to assist with COVID, and this kind of rideshare service is certainly falls under that umbrella. And so that's helped us get participants to right now. The biggest challenge has been getting candidates out to drug screenings and background screening buildings, which are usually far afield and are even more difficult to get to without transportation, operating as it usually does. So we've seen that work quite well. We just send them a gift card, they open it up on their email, and they could be there in 20, 25 minutes. And it takes a lot of stress and anxiety off the participant's plate. Not missing these usually very tight windows on making it to a drug screening, getting their paperwork submitted in time so they don't miss an opportunity.
And are donations of gift cards for things like Uber helpful at this point, as well as Smart Trip gift card donations?
Yes, big time. Both are useful. Enough participants do live in a part of the city that metro is viable. So we've only seen the need to interview with Uber and Lyft, to intervene. Sorry, with Uber and Lyft for interviews and things like that. A handful of times, less than 10 in the last month or so. But those having those donated, and those do not need to be donated as physical gift cards. Just sending the code via email is extremely helpful. Those would be great donations. Yes.
Great. Someone else had posted a question about childcare. What sort of issues are people facing with that, with different childcares in schools being closed?
Sure. David, do you want to speak to that?
Hold on 1 second. Some background noise I'm trying to fix here. What's the question again? I'm sorry.
The question, David, was what sort of childcare issues are people facing at this time with different daycare centers, schools being closed?
Well, me personally, the participants I have worked with, I haven't had a issue with the daycares. I don't know if Richard had some participants with daycare issues.
I've had just a couple.
But not me personally so far.
I've had just a couple. These were candidates being placed with the Brooks, actually, and they expressed some concern about childcare, but fortunately, DHS has been doing quite a bit to intervene and to provide childcare options and support for candidates. So we directed them to DHS and to other city organizations to look into those options. I passed them on, and they said that it took care of the problem. So there are alternatives. We've also seen that there are a lot of community solutions for them as well. A lot of folks have been able to find a caretaker or some way to have kids looked after while they work remotely or whatever else. It is still a concern. I have had some candidates pull out of the process simply because they don't know they simply don't feel safe bringing a caretaker into the home at this time. They're just too worried about the effects, and so some have paused their job search. That was just one or two candidates, and again, that's part of the services we provide is understanding that we're here to help you get a job if it's the right time for you. If this is the best choice for you. And some candidates have just said that with the challenges of COVID, they don't see it realistically happening, and they are more concerned with remaining quarantined and staying healthy than they are with their income. So,
Great. So I'm gonna just some folks have asked how to access the chat screen. If you hover your mouse around the lower part of the screen, you'll see a little bubble, looks like a cartoon chat bubble, and that'll open it up. But Jan, you've weighed in. I'm going to actually ask the question for you here, if that's okay. The question is, how does Employment First and Housing First, how does that interact, and what's the interaction of that? I mean, if you could illuminate a little bit on that.
sure.
Well, before AimHire used to have a housing component integrated. We no longer have that. However, we work together with housing resources through the city, right? And that we can provide the participant, and they can, of course, apply for those benefits that the city has or the county, whichever the participant lives. But we no longer have the housing component. However, it's part of the take for us to add, where they're living, what is their living condition. So that way we make a short assessment and provide resources for that person to, utilize. And, we might do the initiate in the first communication for this participant, but just to make it clear that, they have to take on, and do that.
Mm-hmm. I'd say it interacts in three major ways. One is helping a participant attain housing, supportive housing, and that is simply as a part of a participant's assessment through whatever channel they're going through. When it comes to getting approved for supportive housing, if they can post income on that assessment, it will increase their chances of getting supportive housing, right? There's a lot more to it than that, but that's it in a nutshell, right? It is that income helps get supportive housing in many cases. The second is that for sheltered participants, of course, steady income is going to help them transition out of the shelter into being able to pay for their own residence, right? And kind of building up a reservoir of funds for first month's rent, security deposit, moving expenses, things like that. That's going to go a long way as well. And then finally, we see for a lot of our participants that what we are providing by helping them get income is if they've been housed, if housing, if they're now stabilized, making sure that their income is going to keep them from going back into homelessness, right? So, and we've seen it work effectively in all three parts of the process. Everyone is different in terms of when that income is most needed, not just for their situation, but also how it fits into the whole picture of the whole person. How ready are they to start taking on the challenges of work if they are still recovering from the trauma of homelessness, right? Some may not be ready. It may be too much of a challenge for some, and we have seen that, and we've made recommendations to participants, to say, it may be better for you to focus on housing right now. It may be better for you to focus on mental health or your physical health right now. When those things are more stable, come back. We'll work with you then on your employment when you're ready. And we see participants come back more ready and more able to move forward with employment. And then we see them get placed and stick longer than they did before they were initially placed. So, and that's where Employment First can be a really strong tool because it's flexible, right? We can take what we know about this participant and their whole situation and work to find the employment solution that's right for them at that time, wherever they are in their recovery.
Question?
Sure.
Yeah,
Huh?
hi. I missed the beginning, so this you might have already been over this territory. But to get back to the most basic thing is, how do you convince a homeless person that they can handle getting a job? Get them to want to take a job.
Sure. So some of that work is done for us because we are an at-will program, right? I mean, the participants who come to us, they're not here to fulfill some kind of requirement. They're not here because they have to be. They're here because they want to be. Everyone that we work with, they are here because they really they want an opportunity. But I think there is another point embedded in that question, which is how to convince participants that they can work, they can be successful, they can find a job, that they will be, happy in, that they will be successful in, that they will become stable in. And that's a huge part of what we do, and that takes time. You have to first establish trust and rapport with your participant. You have to understand the participant's strengths. We have to help the participants see that they are hireable, that they have something to add to a workforce, right? And that there are teams and companies and bosses that they can work with that will help them feel fulfilled, feel stabilized, and be a part of a team that makes them feel productive. That morale piece is huge. It's subtle. It takes time to develop, and it really requires us to be extremely accountable and compassionate, and to understand and to help the participant understand what their strengths are. Right. There are obstacles to it. Mental health challenges, trauma. Certainly, a lot of participants have in their lives encountered a lot of gatekeepers. All right. They've encountered gatekeepers to their housing. Right. Well, I'm not sure I can approve you for housing yet. You haven't scored XYZ on this assessment, etc. Right. They've encountered gatekeepers to employment. Well, we're not sure if you've got all the professionalism we need, etc., etc. Right. They run into a lot of folks in positions of authority who have kept them from attaining their goals, or that can be the perception, right? And as workforce development professionals, it is easy for us to be cast in that same light, right? As a gatekeeper, right? Well, if I'm going to get you a job, I need you to send me an email XYZ times, right? More homework, more requirements, more etc. By meeting them where we are, by identifying them with their strengths, and by believing that they can get a job, the core AimHire belief is that anyone who comes in our doors, we can get them a job, right? With the right assistance, with the right time, with the right preparation, with the right employer. By having that as our core belief, we can we're already working on the first step to make sure that participant can believe that they could get a job, and help them to create a vision where they see themselves making it to work every day and being successful despite the challenges that they face. So I think that piece of mentorship, and that's something that we reinforce at every level of AimHire. It's from myself, from David, from their case managers, from other participants who maintain a sense of professionalism in the AimHire office, who are all diligently applying, who treat AimHire as their office, and then finally from the volunteers who come in with their who come in with support, who provide that mentorship, and who help the participants believe that they can get a placement. That all adds up into building that trust and helping the participants see the vision where they can stay employed.
Great. Unmuting myself here too, and I'll unmute David again here. One other question that has come up is, what other things can volunteers do? It seems like you've got opportunities for mock interviewers, and that's wonderful. I think in the past, volunteers have offered workshops of different sorts for people. Is that something that's of use? Is there anything in particular that comes to mind?
Well, before the whole pandemic started, actually, we were putting together, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rich, or add anything, a series of workshops, and we were pretty close to launch. And unfortunately, this happened. We can always need a lot, extra hands. And actually, kudos to Chris Kennedy. He's working very good, sending us volunteers that are willing to work remotely to follow up or do mock interviews. So it's always welcoming. Anyone that has volunteered before, you can contact me directly. If you have never volunteered before through Friendship Place, please feel free to contact Chris Kennedy or Chris Lutledge. But there's always something to do. But at the same time, I always tell people be a little patient. Sometimes it's not busy because we have a lot of volunteers, and sometimes it gets really busy because we have a lot of stuff going on. So it's not like every week you might have something. But yes, always welcome, and because volunteers have different perspective, different ideas. By the way, so we're always open to new ideas and new implementation as well. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, there's a lot that volunteers can do, and one thing that I think is great about volunteering at AimHire, one, you get FaceTime with participants. That is absolutely the best. If that is what you're looking for, I think you can make a huge difference on a participant by taking that time to work with them one on one, to coach them, to form that connection with them. Right. That's one of the best things. Right. I got into AimHire from my previous role. I was working on recruitment and marketing for nonprofits. I was like a contractor, and it felt removed where I was from the mission. Right, I wanted to be in the trenches. Right, and if you want to be in the trenches, AimHire, you will get that. A couple projects that volunteers have come to us with, and another thing that I think is great about volunteering with us is that volunteers have come to us with ideas on things that they want to focus on. That's great examples. Brenda, she really wanted to focus on mock interviews. It was clear, that she had a strong vision for how she wanted those mock interviews to go. She wanted to tackle them in an organized and structured way, and she helped us execute. Right? I mean, we would have gotten to a structured mock interview plan at some point we would have needed to, but she was really one of the drivers and one of the first pieces of impetus to making that happen. So I think if you're a volunteer and you want to talk about how you were successful in your industry, you can come and do that. Right, we would then find participants who've been in your industry. We would help them come together. You could talk a little bit about what helped you to be successful. That's something I think a lot of participants would be really interested in. Everyone wants to know from the specialists, from the mavens, from the TED talkers, right, on how they've been successful. I think a lot of participants would respond to that. If you want to talk about general interview strategies, give some kind of presentation on that, that's great too. If you want to follow Deborah Browse's lead and just send me, every time you see a help wanted poster, you send me a screenshot. I call that employer. Usually they pick up and say, hi, Hal's Pizza or whatever else. And, I say, no, I need a hiring manager, right? But that kind of information is really valuable. Hey, the local restaurant just looking for dishwashers or a bartender or something. They're not going to give us 20 or 30 employed participants, but they may get us one. And if we get those kinds of leads from all over the city, that all adds up. And that's absolutely how we've been successful in the past, right? An employer who gives us one hire is an incredibly valuable employer partner, right? And has its place in our strategy and in solution for participants, right? Lastly, this is something I'd love to do is if you're a volunteer and you're connected to a DC or DMV based employer that is looking to hire, and a hiring manager, or you think some of our participants might be a fit for your open positions, you let me know. I would love to collaborate with volunteers on creating employer contacts. And that wouldn't have to be anything more than an introductory email, a point of contact person, sort of a warm handshake kind of thing. And then from there, you could be hands off. It could be more hands on if you want to, work with that company. If you have connections to really get, a drive for recruitment going, that's great too. But any kind of connections that you have, I have found that I can make cold calls and reach out to employers, sort of from the hinterlands, all I want. But those warm one-on-one connections with employers that I've made at job fairs, when I've had that opportunity for that face-to-face interaction, to really sell our mission, and to develop that trust early on. That list of 5 employers that I mentioned earlier, the 5 employers invited to this call, some of our strongest employers, all of those initial connections were made that way. And I see time and time again that those warm handshakes, they're the ones that go furthest. So any help there would be great.
Great. Thank you. Well, we are actually, this hour has flown. We are now coming up on 1 o'clock. So, Richard, David, thank you so much for sharing. Jean-Michel, I think you needed to ring off. He had some internet problems, unfortunately. But Sean, if you are there, Sean is the chief to whom the AimHire program reports up to. And Sean, if you have able to say a few words, is there anything you'd like to say?
Sure. Well, David and Richard, thanks for sharing about the work at AimHire that has been done, not just during these COVID days, but over the course of the last year. I've been inspired, having been working with you guys since August of last year, just to see the commitment that you guys have, and also just to hear about the amazing work that the volunteers who have engaged with our participants and have been committed to creating opportunities for participants to be successful. It has just been incredibly inspiring. I think that, as we always know, that the work is always going to be at the table for us. And so, as an organization, we are committed to continuing to utilize the best practices of employment first, housing first, and also in our commitment as an organization to work towards equity and inclusion for all participants and all of our stakeholders. And thank you all for being on the call. And we wholeheartedly invite you to continue to work with us as we work to end homelessness in the DC region, to find opportunities for housing, for employment, and in making sure that we work to find social justice for our participants. And so I could talk for a while longer, but I think the words that David and Richard have shared today, I think are the most important words for us to depart this call.
Yeah. David and Richard, any closing comments you would like to offer?
Well, just to let you know, our vision is to grow AimHire, because the bigger AimHire, the more participants we can reach out. So Sean, Richard, Jean-Michel, and even volunteers, they know that my vision is to have different AimHire offices in the Metro DC area to help different populations. For example, Babe King, she brought a great point, and through my career, I've seen people that they're not able to work for an employer, but they can work in a supervised environment. So, it's my vision to have a special team just to help seniors, a special team to help youth, a special team to help people with disabilities, and expand the mission of Friendship Place and AimHire to help more people. So if you come across any grants, anything, we would love to take a look at it. And of course, any private donors that would like to donate, always welcome, and always receive with the bottom of our heart. But we do feel that this is just the beginning. It's very exciting. I was talking to Richard the other day. We have some for social distancing, and it's exciting. It's exciting. The vision that we have is exciting. This is just the beginning, and we have put a good foundation, with a good team of volunteers and staff. And I believe from the bottom of my heart that we're ready to, the adventure of expanding this. So thank you everybody from the bottom of my heart. Me being a person in transitioning, going through public assistance, I do know the importance of people supporting. So our participants, even though they don't know us, every single one of you, I'm pretty sure they're thankful as well. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And it really
Appreciate
is so much credit to you, the donors, our friends and supporters. You make this happen. So you continue that support. I see Jean-Michel I was mistaken here on, but I know he was having some. I'm going to unmute your line, Jean-Michel, if you're able to say a few words, or if your internet is just. I think the internet remains a problem. So I think then I'll serve to close here. Thank you again. This has been a great series. The series continues. We've heard from various chiefs talking about different programs. We've heard from AimHire now. There are a myriad other programs that we undertake here that we're going to pull over the next couple of months and do these lunchtime webinars. It's a great opportunity where you can learn a little bit more about our work and also invite other friends to attend. We've had a wonderfully loyal cadre of folks who've been attending these. We'd love to share the word more. We've been posting on our social media feeds and through our listings, to recordings of this, and we'll be sure to do that again for this webinar. But by all means, when you do see that link, go ahead and share it with your friends who you think would be interested, because there's a whole city of people out here who are concerned about the same things we are. And we're, as I always say, we're merely conduits for a caring community. So thank you again for being a caring community. So thank you again for joining us, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chris.
Take care. Thank you.